So welcome to this second session of the Sthita Prajna Prakarana of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the second Adhyaya. This part will focus mainly on Indriya and Man Sanyam. We start with the gratitude towards the Lord, through whose grace all this is possible, and the lineage of the Guru Parampara and our Guruji Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I have been learning on this path, and I would like to share my understanding with you. We start with the prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Yasmunavaditamastu Vidvishamahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we have already seen in the first session about what is the sadhana to reach to the level of Sthita Prajna. We have also seen the first and the second answers to the first two questions. And in this section we will see the answers to the third and the fourth question of Arjuna. So the third question is Kim Asita, and Lord Bhagavan Shri Krishna answers, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yada Sambharate Chayam Kurmongani Vasarvashaha Indriyanindriyarthepyaha Tasya Prajna Pratisthita. So here Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives an example of the turtle and gives Updesha about how we should control our senses. Indriya Sanyam का उपदेश दे रहे हैं. He says, just as a turtle withdraws all its limbs into the shell, the Sthita Prajna person withdraws all his sense organs from the sense objects, and this is how he attains this firm wisdom. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani va sarvashaha indriyanindriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. So this is a beautiful example of a turtle. And this suggests to us how in our life when we live, we should remain very aware like a turtle, have kind of a control like a turtle, and have an understanding with our buddhi and our intellect. So let us understand what is this Indriya and how we can be in control. So Indriya are all the sense organs. There are 5 Jnanendriyas, there are 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Jnanendriyas through which we perceive all the Jnana from the world, and 5 karmendriyas through which we do our action and live in this world. And the basic nature of these indriyas, the 5 jnanendriya and the 5 karmendriya, is that they are bahirmukha, means they are outwardly going towards all the sense objects. This is how we perceive the world. So these are they are outwardly bahirmukha, and they are very chanchala. They are very active. They keep going to one and the different places. They just want to go everywhere and enjoy the sense pleasures. So this is the sahaj pravrutti, or the basic nature of this indriya. So if you see, there are, how this works. There are vishaya. Vishaya are the objects which are outside in the world, and the indriya goes to this vishaya and interact and take this knowledge and bring it back to our mana, our mind. And then in the mind, all this sankalpa, vikalpa happens, that, whether we should indulge into this or not indulge into this. And the buddhi is the one that controls and takes a decision, nishchay. And then finally there is the atma, which is the observer, which is the, the adhisthana or the consciousness, which is ultimately the adhisthana. So now the mana, as you see, is in the center, and indriya and vishaya are outwardly towards it, and the buddhi and the atma are on one side or inner in the mana. So whether the indriya is sometimes so powerful that it takes away the mana and the buddhi along with it outside. So this is called harate. And if the mana is very quiet, it is cultivated, it is balanced, then this mana will not just run away with the indriya, but it will be under the control of the buddhi, or will be sthit in the atma. So this is called samharate. And this is a very important understanding because mana is in the center, and all the sadhana that we do is to focus, to cultivate, to mature this mind. That is the most important part of the sadhana. And this Indriya Sanyama, it is called Dhamma, and Mana Sanyama is called Shama. But only with the Mana Sanyama you can develop the Indriya Sanyama. So Indriya Sanyama is very important, and our sadhana starts from this. So Mana Sanyama is the Shama, and so this was just the two parts of, as you remember, Shama Adi Shat Sampatti, which was talked about in the first session of Sthita Prajna, the sadhana Chatushtaya, Sampatti, Shama, Dhamma, Shraddha, Samadhana, Tutiksha. All these are important, but here Lord talks about the two, the Dhamma and the Shama and the Dhamma. Mana Sanyam and Indriya Sanyam, which are very important because from here is where the spiritual journey starts. The spiritual journey starts with this cultivation. The entire journey almost is in the Mana Sanyama or the mind control. And the entire spiritual journey is to discipline the mind, because maturity of the mind takes a lot of time and a lot of efforts, and that's why we have to continue this spiritual path with a lot of awareness, because it takes years for this mind to change its habits, the way it is thinking, the way it is working. First we have to become aware about it and then try to change it, but gradually it can become effortless, and that is what the Sthita Prajna is. He is effortless. His habits are such that he doesn't have to make much efforts. And the entire purpose of our spiritual learning, Gitaji, is towards maturing our own mind, because the body grows as the age advances, but the mind does not grow as the age advances. A person may become an adult by his age, by his body, but his mind may be like a child. And so many times we have seen this, the way that we do a lot of jid, agraha, that no, I want to do this is what in the way it should be done, this is like I want to do it, get upset, start crying for small little things. All these is like a childlike behavior. So even if we grow with body, we become adults. As body, we pass the age of 18, we start have voting rights, but our mind is still like a child's mind. It has not grown. So the mind growth is the most important, and the mind maturity is the most important part of the spiritual journey. The entire spiritual journey is actually to become aware about and to cultivate our mind. So the example of the turtle is a very profound example which Lord has given here in this shloka, because the turtle has many characteristics. Very hard shell from outside and it's very soft from inside. So the message is that we should remain hard in our resolutions, in the way we react, we resolve or we interact with the outside world, but soft from inside. Whenever, when in conduct, when we are dealing with people, we should be soft in our conduct. But when difficulties come, we should have a strong resolve and work with a strong understanding. The other thing is that karma, or the turtle, is not lazy. He is very proactive. He keeps moving. Very rarely you will see that the turtle is just staying in one place for a long period of time, like a magarmacha or like the alligators. So the turtles carry out a long journey. They utilize their time very well. They keep moving. And that's what the spiritual journey is all about. We have to keep moving. Chadai veti. But here, the other beautiful thing that the turtle does is it's always having a lot of patience. It is never in haste. You never see a turtle walking very fast like we conduct in our routine life. That we are, always in haste. Always we want to do so many things. We always want to do so. The turtle is always a slow and the steady. And that is what helps it to win the race. You must have heard about the story between the turtle and the rabbit. The rabbit moves very fast, but when he reaches to the line, he thinks, he's going to win, overconfidence, and then he takes rest, he goes to sleep, and the turtle, who keeps moving slow and steady, wins the race. So every change on this path happens very, very slowly. And we have to keep moving like a turtle. We have to keep moving like a turtle. The other attribute of a turtle is that it keeps on the persistent efforts. It doesn't stop walking. It keeps walking. If you hold a turtle, put it from one place to the other, it will also start walking. So always it keeps walking, whether it is on the land or whether it is in the water, it keeps moving wherever it is. And this denotes its enthusiasm, its courage to keep moving constantly. And this is what we need on this spiritual path. The turtle also has a goal in his mind. Whenever the land or the pond dries up, the turtle moves and goes to another pond. But if you hold this turtle and take it to the different direction, it will again change its direction and go towards the goal. So the turtle has a goal in the mind, does not get lost. And the turtle is very aware. It will walk a little bit, it will put out its hood or the head, see whether there is any danger around, and then it will again take a few steps, again come out, see, and again take a few steps. So very aware at every step. The turtle denotes that as a seeker on this path, we should be very aware at every step. We should be aware about all our thoughts, our actions. So these are all the things that we can learn from the turtle. It's a beautiful example. And then after this, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drashtva nivartate. So this says that even if the Vishaya vinivartante, the objects of the desire have already have left us, we are not possessing those objects, and the objects are renounced, but the senses do not feed on the objects, but the desire of having those objects is still within us. Say for example, we do a fast in one of the month, one day, that on that day we always have that, whatever is made today, we will have it tomorrow, or that, we will like to crave for something else. So this craving or this desire for the food does not go away even though we are fasting on that day. So this is what it means, that rasa. This is the rasa. But this rasa, how can it go? This final desire or this craving, how does it go? Rasa varjam rasopyasa, that desire still remains, even though by force the indriya are not going into the objects, or they are not possessing the objects. So Lord Krishna says here that param drashtva nivartate. Rasa varjam rasopyasya param drashtva nivartate. Param drashtva means when it gets only relieved when you know the eternal knowledge, Paramatma, when we have the darshana of this Atma darshana, this eternal knowledge, when we have param drashtva, then only this gets relieved with this eternal knowledge, seeing this God or understanding this. Or for a bhakta it could be devotion, for a karma yogi it could be karma yoga, for a gnani it could be this eternal knowledge, but only with this param drashti this gets relieved. Yatato yapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini aranti prasabham manaha. So in this, Lord Krishna describes about the power of the senses, how indriya, how powerful they are. So it says, Yatato yapi purushasya vipaschita. So a person who is already on this path, he is a seeker, he is a sadhaka, who also is a viveki, who uses his buddhi, uses his discriminative intellect. He is not a ajnani. He is not talking of the ajnani purusha. He talks about the sadhaka who has been using his viveka. Even for this person, the indriyathini pramathini means his powerful sense organs, they work in such a way that they take away the mind by force. It says haranti prasabham manaha. Very forcefully takes away the mind, harate, takes away the mind outside towards the objects, and even he cannot use his intellect, his knowledge, his understanding. He cannot use it because the power, the force of these indriya is so powerful. That is what Lord Krishna tells in this shloka. So Arjuna must have said, oh God, if you are saying that these indriya are so powerful, then what am I to do? What have I to do? What should I do? And Lord Krishna says here, Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasya indriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. So he says, you exercise control over your mind and your senses. So Tani sarvani sanyamya, all your sense organs you must keep under control. You must keep a watch. You must be aware of your sense organs and become yukta. Yukta means be equipoised, be balanced, be person who is making efforts on this path, keep progressing, becoming aware, keep progress on this path. Asita means be having a firm resolution towards your goal. And matparaha. Matpara means either you take refuge or help from your buddhi or intellect, all you surrender to me. With this, you have a control over your buddhi, through your buddhi on your mind, become firmly resolved with the mind, control your indriya. So these are the steps how we can control our Indriya Sanyam, how we can do it by becoming Yukta, by becoming Asita and Matparaha. And this is one who has this sense organs, all the sense organs under control. Yasya Indriyani Tasya Prajna Pratishtita, means that is the person who is firmly rooted in wisdom. So here Lord talks about all the sense control, mind control, how it can be done, what mana, what buddhi, what and surrender to the Atma, how the steps are there too for the Indriya or the mind control. And in the next two shlokas, Shri Krishna describes what are the 8 steps to ruining our life. If we don't exercise this control, if we are not aware, if we don't exercise this, then what can happen? It says, Dhyayato Vishayan Punsa Sangasde Shupajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. And the next shlok, Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha, we'll come to that. But the first 4 steps, it starts with Dhyayato Vishayan Punsaha, means the person keeps thinking about the objects, those objects of desires which are in the world. We keep thinking about this, that I want this, I want to achieve this, I want this much, I want still more, I want this will give me pleasure. So this thinking, Dhyayata, Vishaya, how do we do it? This we do it with a Rasapurvaka or with a, scriptures it says Shobna Dhyasa, that this object, if I have it, this will give me happiness, this will make me happy, I'll get pleasure out of this. So with this, we start this is the first step to the ruin. We constantly start talking about the, think about the Vishaya, and then with this we get attached to this Vishaya. When we have this Vishaya with us, because it gives us the sense of pleasure or happiness, we don't want to let go of this. So this is what is the next step, it becomes attachment, second step. And then with this attachment, what happens, the third step is that there is an intense desire that this should remain with me, it should not go away. Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha, this desire, intense desire. And then if it does not remain with me, for some reason somebody says, no, give it to me, or for some circumstances, for some reason it goes away, then again I want to have it. So then somebody comes in the way of getting me into this sense pleasures, then I get angry at that person. So with this, I developed an anger. So anger comes because my desires are not fulfilled. That's why I become angry. For these first 4 steps are still till this step, it is in a reversible stage. If we are still aware, if we know that I have become angry because this is the desire that has not been fulfilled, and I can get back and come to my natural self. But if I am not aware, if I don't become alert at this stage, then the next 4 steps to ruin, Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smruti Vibhramaha Smruti Branshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. Means the 4th step, if I am not aware, then from anger it becomes moha, delusion, because then I can't see clearly. Then Sammohat Smruti Vibhramaha, with this moha or delusion, my Smruti is destroyed. Smruti is my memory, whatever I have understood from my guru, from my teachers, from my elders, from my parents, whatever good sanskara I have had so far in my life, everything gets destroyed. I don't know what is good, what is not so good. All my memory of my good or not so good is lost. With this, our intellect, our buddhi shakti is also destroyed. Buddhinasha, Buddhinashat Pranashyati. When our buddhi shakti, intellect, is the gift of our humans, when this is destroyed, then we become like an animal. Then we resort to violence, we resort to excessive anger, we resort to a lot of things which we should not do as a human being. And we see this every day. We read newspapers, what kind of dushkritya people do, what kind of bad things, inhuman things people perform. And this is because it starts from the first step and it goes to the last step, and that person ceases to become a person, he becomes something like an animal. And this destruction or this ruin becomes irreversible. And then only we repent finally. Why did I do this? I shouldn't have done this. This does not befit me. I could never have done this. But because I got engulfed with so much of desire, anger, attachment, moha, and then my memory was lost, my intellect was destroyed. I could not see clearly what I should have done, what I should not have done. And in that spur of a moment, I did something that I should not have done. We then realize, then we repent, But if we want to avoid, we have to be conscious and aware about how this happens. The 8 steps of ruin, which starts from Dhrayato Vishayan Punsa, thus the objects of sense controls which you all think about, that I should have this, I should have this. It starts from there, and then gradually how it percolates and destroys our own very self. Raga Dvesha Vyuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischcharan Atmavashyai Vidheyatma Prasadamadigatchati. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna answers the 4th question of Arjuna. How does he walk in this world? Means how does he conduct in his life? He is free from Raga Dvesha. Raga Dvesha Vyuktaistu Indriyashu Indriyaschcharan means his sense organs are already, working. He also looks at the objects. He also sense organs go to the objects. But this is without the Raga Dvesha. And how is this possible? What is Raga Dvesha? We will come to it. Atma Vashyai Vidheyatma, with the sense organs under his control. His mind is under his control. Sthita Prajna, his senses are under his control. And this is how he relates to all the objects in the world. And that's how he achieves that Prasada Buddhi. Prasada means that tranquility, that peace of mind is what he achieves. The Sthita Prajna person. So Raga Dvesha, let us understand what is this Raga Dvesha, which are the root causes of all the problems that we face day in and out. Raga Vritti means Sukha Vritti. Raga means attachment, likes, attractions. So that whenever our sense organ goes to that object, and when we see that, then we have a Vritti inside that, okay, I like this. And then I want that this thing or this person should become with me. And then I develop a desire to have this. Sometimes it becomes like a greed to have it constantly. Once I have it once, and then it becomes an attachment that I must have it. I should not lose this particular thing. So this is called the Sukha Vritti or the Raga Vritti. The second Vritti is the Dvesha Vritti. When the Indriya goes into objects and develops, and then if that object is something that I don't like, that could be some food, that could be some person, that could be some way that somebody has to talk to me, I don't like, then I have a Dvesha. Then I want that person, that Vyakti, that food, everything should not come to me again. I should not have it, because I have a Dukkha Vritti or Dvesha Vritti with that particular thing, object or person. So, and then when that person comes again, or that food comes again to me, or that Vyakti or that relationship or that circumstance, then I develop anger or I resort to violence. So this is Dukkha Vritti or Dvesha Vritti. So it is this Raga Dvesha which work in our mind in a very subtle way, which we don't understand, we are not aware about it also. And they stay in a very dormant stage, and then they get activated whenever there is a circumstance or a situation arises. And this is how it works. We are not even aware about this, and that's why we just continue, unconsciously getting into this Raga Dvesha and working with our Raga Dvesha. So it is these Raga Dvesha which create a lot of impressions in our mind, which are like some kind of, which we call as sanskara. These are the sanskaras which are there, the chapa. Something like in an older generation when we used to use this camera roll, when you take a camera picture, that is that impression which gets onto this roll, and then you develop this roll and get the pictures. So this is kind of impressions which are already there. So that will work when you see that situation again. That sanskara will become active. For a Gnani, his mind, his camera roll does not have impressions. Sanskaras are shitil, and his mind is like a mirror where there are no impressions. Whatever is seen is the reality. There are no unnecessary impressions which are there. And so his mind is quite clean. His mind is quite pure. Antakarana is quite shuddha. And that is how this Gnani Purusha or the Sthita Prajna Purusha works. This Raga Dvesha doesn't work. So he works, he lives in this world, he conducts himself, he lives in this world. But when his sense organs go to different objects, Raga Dvesha are not the ones which create this Sukha Dukkha Vritti, and that is how he does not relate to this world. So our own journey for a seeker, for us, people like us, the most important part of our journey, the main crux of the journey is to dissolve this Raga Dvesha. For that, we have to first become aware how these Raga Dvesha work in our mind, in our thoughts, and then we have to gradually dissolve them. So Indriya Sanyam is a training, it is a sadhana, part of the sadhana. Raga Vritti, Dvesha Vritti are the ones which keep happening to us. From here we have to go towards what is called as a Upeksha Vritti, means samatva bhavna, that we don't give too much of importance to this raga or dvesha, likes or dislikes, attractions or repulsions. We don't give so much of importance to this, and we kind of give a little disrespect. Upeksha, literal meaning is disrespect, but here the meaning is not disrespect, but not giving undue importance to it. That is the meaning of this. And here in Gita Ji, there is a corollary which is given to this Ratha of Arjuna, whereas Indriya, the horses represent our Indriya because they are so chanchala, they just want to go out, Bahirmukha. So the horses are like that, they have to be cultivated. And this cultivation of these horses occurs with the lagam. Lagam is the thing that, that string that cultivates or controls the horses. So man is like a lagam which controls these horses. And on the man, who controls this man? The lagam is the buddhi. And buddhi is the sarthi. So if the sarthi is like a Lord Krishna, the charioteer that Arjuna had, then nothing like it. If Bhagavan Krishna controls our ratha, then all our senses, all our mind, everything will become under control. So this is how we have to develop the true success in our life. We always believe that, the material possessions, our name, our fame gives us the true success in our life. But Gita Ji and Lord Krishna gives us a different vision. It says the true success of the life is how we develop control over our own mind, our own inner enemies, our own indriyas, our own senses. This is really the test of our success in our life. If we are in our control of our own self, that is the real control of our life or real success of our life. Next shloka. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Says, what is the benefit of being in this sense control? And the benefit is that person acquires a peace of mind, a tranquility of the mind. Prasade sarva dukkhanam. When the mind is peaceful, all the miseries disappear. Hani asya upajayate. All the, pains, miseries, conflicts, everything goes away when the mind is peaceful. Prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Means when a person has a peaceful, controlled mind, senses, everything is under control, his intellect becomes firm, his resolve becomes firm, he is deeply rooted in the sthita prajna. So for this person, he has a peace of mind, and that's how his miseries disappear. And the peace of mind, the happiness are both correlated with each other. We must make a conscious effort that the peace of mind should be the single most important priority for us in our life, not just the material possessions, because material possessions don't give us that peace of mind. And peace of mind should be like a non-negotiable. If this becomes our firm resolution, then definitely this attitude of becoming happy towards who is successful, becoming compassionate towards the needy, and disregarding the person who is greedy. We don't want to learn to become greedy from a person who is greedy, but we should just disregard. For a person who is needy, we should have some kind of compassion so that we give something. And for a person who is successful, who has been with me, I should not feel jealous about that person, but should feel happy about that person, that even though we were together during our college days, he has reached to this stage, I should feel happy about this person. So this is the kind of attitude that Lord Krishna tells us to have towards different kinds of people. Avoid jealousy, greed, disrespect, anger, all these shadaripu, kama, krodha, moha, mada, matsarya, all these we should avoid, and should not major on minor things. Small little things, we should not give it a big swarupa or a big, and then start talking about disrespecting others by just small things. We should understand what is this, the importance of this small thing in our life. What is our main goal? Where do we want to reach? Why do we want to get upset about small little things that are happening in our day-to-day life? We should not major on these things. And we should learn from the learned. People who are learned, wise people, guru, sannyasis, sant, log, all these mahatmas, we should try and learn how they remain peaceful in all the situations in life. What is their understanding? What is their situation? What is their, whenever situations come, how do they react? There is something that we didn't learn from them. But the secret of having a peace of mind is that it is attained only with santosha, some kind of a contentment. Enough is enough. And that is, in our scriptures, it is called alam buddhi. Alam buddhi means, okay, whatever I have is enough for my needs. It is enough for me. I don't want to be greedy and have more and more, which I'm not going to utilize in my lifetime. So this kind of some kind of a satisfaction, some kind of a santosha. Contentment is the essential part of becoming peaceful. That is number one. And number two is that peace comes only with vairagya. We normally believe that happiness comes with getting more and more attached possessions. But actually the reality, the truth is that we let go of our possessions, we let go of the lot of limitations, let go of our jeed, our duragra, our strong likes, our strong dislikes, our strong repulsions, our strong attachments. All this we have to gradually let go, and then only we become more and more peaceful. So this is the crux of the subject matter of our scriptures, our Gita Ji. Nasti buddhira yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayatah shanti ashantasya kutah sukham. So Lord Krishna here says that person who does not have this balance, what happens to him? Ayukta person. One is yukta is already said, but now he talks about the ayukta person. Ayukta buddhi. His buddhi, his knowledge is not firmly established. He has bahushakha yanantasya. As his knowledge is not firmly established. He does not have proper bhavana, proper contemplation, and for him there is no shanti. He has no peace of mind because he has so many desires. He wants to achieve so many things. He wants to do so many things. His buddhi is not clear. He is not clear what is his goal in life. So for this person, there cannot be any peace of mind. And if there is no peace of mind, asantasya kutah sukham, how can he be happy? If there is no peace of mind, there cannot be any happiness. To be happy, we have to have a peace of mind. And peace of mind is directly correlated with our happiness. And that's why Lord gives a lot of importance to developing prasada or good peace of mind, which can make us happy. So there are some terminologies. Yoga, we already know. Yukta, we already has senses, mind, intellect under control, who is aligned with the God and remains firmly steady in his intellect. But ayukta is a person who does not have these characteristics and who has no control over his mind and buddhi. Shanti, Sukha and Anand are essentially the same thing. The joy, when we say happiness, joy, there are different words in English. In our scriptures, Shanti, Sukha and Ananda are ultimately essentially the same part. It is our inner being. That is this, if we express that, then it is that Ananda. And this is what we all yearn, that we must have peace of mind, we must have Sukha, we must be happy, we must have Ananda, we should be Kusha, we should be happy all the time. And that is what we all yearn, and we yearn that this should remain always with us. We should eternally be in this stage, which is our natural stage. Our Shastras tell us that this happiness, this peace is our natural stage. Remaining angry, desiring too many things, becoming agitated, anxious, stressed, or all the time lot of thoughts in our mind is not our natural state, because that is not the stage where we feel part of the existence. When we are peaceful, we feel part of the existence, because that's our natural stage. And that is what is our real nature. It is our Ananda Swarupa. When we understand this, our real nature, that this is the bliss, that it comes from within. All this happiness does not come from outside. The sense objects give us a transient feeling of happiness, which is also not given by those objects, because even when those objects are there, then we become dukhi after later on. So the happiness that it also gives, transient happiness, is also the expression of my own blissful nature, my own self. Once this understanding, which is there in the Upanishada and the Vedanta, comes to us, that our whatever happiness, whatever sukha that we experience in our life is also part of our own Swarupa, Ananda, then we will try to, understand that full, complete Atma Swarupa, which is the Sat, Chit and the Ananda. The Ananda Swarupa is our real self, which gives us this eternal bliss. Next shloka again, Shri Krishna says, Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu na vidhayate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnam vamibam vasi. He gives an example of a boat and says how Indriya or sense organs are so powerful. Again, he reiterates, revises, hammers this in our mind, that these Indriya, these mind is too powerful. You must exercise a lot of your awareness. Indriyanam charatam. He says, senses keep roaming around this world. They keep charati in the sense objects, because that is their nature. Yanmanonuna vidhiyate. The mind also follows the senses. This is normally what happens. Tadasya harati pragnam already also robs the intellects, because they are so powerful. Vayurnavamina, just like a wind blows away the boat into the the lake or this is how all these scents keep roaming around, and that's why we have to be aware about our sense and its movements. And this is what is the spiritual journey, becoming aware about where our senses, our mind is roaming, what the thoughts are coming, why do we do this, what is the purpose, and all this is the starting of our spiritual journey. Tasmadasya mahabaho nigruhitani sarvashah indriyanindriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. So finally he says, Tasmadasya mahabaho, what is the importance of sense control? He says, Mahabaho, oh Arjuna, you are a mighty warrior, you have won a lot of your external enemies, but the real enemies are within us. This Indriya, this Mana are our real enemies, our Shadripu, our Kama, Krodha, Mada, Moha, Matsarya, our Chanchal, Mana, all these impurities, Agnan, Ashuddhi, all this within ourself are our real enemies. Tasmadasya Mahabaho. So all your sense objects must be withdrawn under mastery, under control naturally. If you achieve this, then you are in this firm intellect, you are steady, you are sthita prajna. All your mind and your senses must be in the control of all this that we experience in this world, and it should come naturally, sahajta, not with a lot of efforts, because with the efforts also, then the efforts, it's like a spring. If you control the mind, suppress the mind, and then it will again suppress and it will come back with a lot of force. So it has to be done by a lot of understanding, not by force or suppression. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. So this is a very beautiful shloka, but it has a very, very deep meaning, and this shows us the difference in vision between the unwise and the wise. The transliteration, the actual meaning is something very different. In that which is night for all the beings, the wise is awake, and in that which is all the beings are awake, it is a night for the wise, for the Jnani Purush. So this meaning is something that doesn't make any sense to a normal person like us, and that's why we have to go deep into it. Our Guruji has shown the meaning in a very detailed method. Somebody wants to learn this, they have to go to some other talks or other Vedaji commentaries. The Shankara Bhashya has given a detailed description on this, and but I'll just in a nutshell, I'll say what is the difference in the vision between the wise and the unwise. Gnani or Agnani, inke vision ka kya difference hai? What does this shloka try to tell us? So towards the world or towards the worldly objects, the unwise person is awake. Means he gives a lot of importance to all this body, mind and other worldly possessions, the wealth, the sukha, dukkha, pleasures, bhoga, all this karma, everything he gives too much of importance because he is awake. Whereas the wise, the gnani, somebody who is tattvadarshi, who has already seen what is the truth, he is not awake. It means he is not giving too much importance to these worldly objects or possessions. For him, it does not give, is not so important. Right? So that is the first and the foremost understanding. This is the crux of what this shloka says. And towards the truth, the ultimate truth is, of course, the consciousness, the Atma, something that is changeless, something that is Sat Tattva, which does not change, something that the wise is completely awake towards that, because he is firmly rooted in that. Whereas the unwise or the Agnani, or the person who normally lives in this world, he is completely asleep. He doesn't know about what is Sat Tattva. Neither he has ever thought about it, never he has given a big thought, or he never experienced it. He never even knows what is this Tattva, which is beyond what we see and think. So this Sat Tattva is the consciousness, which is the eternal truth, which is the beyond all this what we see in the world. That is something that unwise is not aware about. The wise is completely focused. He is just seeing that Tattva always in his mind. So that is the difference in the vision between the wise, who is the Gnani, Sthita Prajna, Mahapurusha, Tattva Gnani, Tattvadarshi, Tattva Gnani or Atma Gnani, somebody who has been accomplished, somebody who is enlightened, somebody who has already reached the goal, that person, and somebody who is Agnani or an ignorant person who is living in this world, just thinking that this world is a reality, whatever we are doing is a reality, and there is nothing beyond this world. So that person and this person, what is the difference in their vision? That is what this shloka says. We'll just recite this shloka once. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. So this is a shloka which is deeply rooted in Upanishads and the eternal understanding of the Upanishads. It's a difficult shloka to understand, except we learn it from a learned guru. And then Lord gives an example of the ocean. Apuryamana machala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti advata tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantamapanooti nakam kami. He gives the inner state of the wise, the Sthita Prajna person. What is his inner condition? And gives an example of the ocean here. He says, just as the water enters the ocean is already full. But whenever the water, all the rivers, whenever they enter the ocean still remains unchanged. There is no change that happens in the ocean because it's already paripurna, already is complete. So even though so many rivers from all over the world, the largest rivers flow so much of cusecs of water into the ocean every day, the ocean undergoes no change. And that's the kind of the situation of a Sthita Prajna or a Gnani Purush, that even though he lives in this world with all these objects and everything, all these desires, senses, they are moving around, but does not make any change. And that person has the real bliss, not the person who has so many desires. The person who has so many desires, wants to achieve so many things, is not the person who will become blissful, but the Sthita Prajna Muni is the real blissful person. So finally, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, Vihaya kamanya sarvan puman charati nispruhaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashanti vadikashati. Describes the accomplished or the enlightened person. He says, who has left all his binding desires. Vihaya kamanya sarvan. All his binding desires have left him. Puman charati nispruhaha. He lives without any attachment or without any longing to anybody else or anything, any objects. And this is the way he lives. Nirmamo. Without any attachment, nirahankaraha, without any ego, pride, and that is a person who gets the eternal bliss, sashanti vadikachati, the eternal bliss or peacefulness. He is the person who gets. So these are all the steps which Lord Krishna has explained to us, how we can achieve this eternally blissful state by leaving our desires gradually, by being aware, by the understanding that how raga dvesha are working, how the sukha dukkha are working, how this process of tadatmya, this association is working, how we identify ourselves and how we become dukhi, sukhi, and how we develop attachment to all these objects, sense objects, because of the raga dvesha, and then we have this attachment to keep it with us, and we have an ego, and all this creates a lot of dvesha, anger, krodha, violence. All this, if we have to get out of this, then we have to go towards Param Drashtva, Paramatma Tattva, and then finally with this surrender, acceptance and Raga Dvesha Shitilikaran, this sadhana, we can achieve this eternal blissful situation. So in the last shloka, the final goal of the human mankind, our mankind, that is the 72nd shloka of the second adhyaya. This is the final shloka. The Lord describes the state of the Brahmi Sthiti. What is this Brahmi Sthiti? Esham Brahmi Sthiti Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati Sthitva Syam Antakalepi Brahma Nirvanam Ruchyati. So he says the moksha, Brahmi Sthiti Partha, this Brahma Swarup Sthiti, this Brahmi Sthiti, Enam Prapya Vibhuyati. Once you attain this status, there is no going back to attachment. You don't go back to moha, attachments, delusion, ego, pride. This does not happen. Once you achieve this state, once you internalize Atmasad, once it gets internalized with you, this knowledge, Sitva Syamantakalepi, if you achieve this state even at the end of your life, then you will attain liberation. You will attain liberation. So this stage is not to be attained after the death, is to be attained during the life. Brahma Nirvana Ruchyati means you will attain moksha. So this moksha or mukti, this is a common word that we have heard, that is to be understood, that this is to be Tattvamasi or Aikya or oneness is a final goal for us, which is the avidya nivrutti, getting rid of the ignorance and getting this final ultimate knowledge, Atma Jnana. leading to moksha. And this has to be done during the lifetime. It is not to be done after the death, but this has to be done during the lifetime. It is to understand our own self and to achieve this complete freedom during our lifetime. This is not a stage to be achieved after death, which normally we understand. And this stage during lifetime is called Jivan Mukti. And when this person, his body is no more, again after death, he achieves what is called as a Videha Mukti. And then he is relieved from all this samsara chakra. There are no more births and deaths. He is completely liberated. So even in this birth, in this life, he is completely liberated, freedom from all the limitations. And even after death, he is liberated from all the chakras, samsara, janma, bandhana. So this is the ultimate knowledge that Lord Krishna talks about, this ultimate freedom. And with this we come to the end of the second adhyaya. And this is called the Adhyaya Pushpika, which is recited at the end of all adhyaya. Om Tat Saditi Shrimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Sankhya Yogo Nama Dvitiyodhyayaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And it is customary to read this last shloka of the 18th adhyaya, which is the end of the Desha of Shri Krishna. After every adhyaya, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Shuchaha. So this is the summary of the Sthita Prajna. 4 questions: attributes, kamna, how we have to get rid of all the desires, achieve samatva and sanyama, the control, and vishaya rasa nivrutti by seeing Paramatma, tattva, indriya sanyam, example of the kurma or the turtle. And then the 8 steps towards ruin starts with vishaya dhyana, the thinking of the objects, raga dvesha, how we have to nivrutta and develop peace. Finally, a person who is ayukta, who has no control, has no happiness. So indriya sanyam comes to the end here. And then he says about gnani and agnani, what is this vision, ya nisha sarva bhutanam, and state of the wise, giving the samudra or the ocean example. And finally, gnani, how he lives in this world, nispruha, nirmama, nirahankara, what is the stage of the gnani. And finally, in the last shloka, the Brahmi Sthiti, the Moksha Prapti. This is the summary of the Sthita Prajna Prakarana. It's a beautiful Prakarana. I would request all of you to please go through it, read in more details and understand the meaning behind what Lord Krishna is trying to tell us. It is eternal bliss. If we can imbibe in our own self, understand and put it in our lifetime, it can give us the eternal bliss. So some food of thought. The final slide, how can I discover my own self? Generally, this journey of spiritual journey starts with asking questions like, who am I? And who am I really? And what is the purpose of my existence on this world? And generally, this is how the sadhak or the seeker starts his journey and embarks on this journey, and he will find these answers given by the Lord himself. So with this, we come to the end of the Sthita Prajna Prakaran. Dhanyavadaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.